Good evening, future techies. My name is Ryne Kerchner. I'm the Associate Director of Recruitment here for the Polytechnic Institute, and I want to welcome you to our broadcast tonight focusing on the Computer Graphics Technology, or CGT department in the Polytechnic here at Purdue University. This will hopefully give you some good insight into what you would experience in this department in your major. And I'm joined by a few panelists who are going to introduce themselves here in a minute. They are representatives, faculty, and staff from that department, from CGT in the Polytechnic, and we'll hear what they have to say about classes and what it's like, what the project's going to work on, everything you can experience in our college here. First, for just some logistical things, in order to participate in the chat function of the YouTube broadcast, we want to hear from you. So log in with your Google account or create one real quick and put those questions into that chat function. We have a student who's going to be responding to those questions in the chat. She can give you that information there. But we're also going to be pulling some of those questions out and asking those questions to our panelists as well. So again, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you want to know. So we want to hear what those questions are. You can also send an email to us that later on we'll be able to respond to those questions at techrecruit@purdue.edu. So if we don't get to your question tonight in the chat or through things that we've prepared, the topics that we're going to come up with and that we came up with to discuss with you tonight already, we'll try to respond as best we can, as soon as we can, if you just send us an email to that email address. And I'll say that again later on tonight as well. So again, please participate in that chat. Let us know what you want to know. And with that, we'll go ahead and start with our introductions with our panelists. So Ray, go ahead and introduce yourself, your area, what you do with the Polytechnic, and kind of maybe some of the courses that you teach as well.
Okay, my name is Hassan. I teach 3D animation primarily, and some of the courses I teach the intro class, intro to 3D animation, advanced 3D modeling, advanced 3D animation. Sometimes I teach the animation capstone class. So pretty wide variety within the 3D animation realm. Was that it?
Yeah, I think that's good. That's a good introduction, and yeah, excellent. Thank you very much. Rosemary, next with you up.
Hi, my name is Rosemary Ashtimer. I'm a assistant professor of practice at the Polytech, and this is my 6th year at Purdue. And before I came to Purdue, I spent 15 years in the CAD industry, computer-aided design. And so that's what I focus on teaching. I teach intro to computer-aided design. And if you don't know, that's from making anything from a coffee maker to an airplane. All this has to be designed in a computer system. And then I also teach what you can do with those models. So by defining it in that system, you can then send it to a machine to automatically be made, or you can send it to another machine to inspect it for quality. And a couple other areas around that, like managing all of that data that comes along with that CAD file. So that's what I'm doing.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, TR. Hey, TR, you're still muted, by the way.
I thought I wasn't going to be one of those people that forgot to unmute, and I was. So there, the ball's been dropped. I'm an academic advisor for the department, one of 3 that are in CGT. So we work with you from freshman to senior year to guide you on what classes to take, when to take them, so that you could target your 4-year plan and be successful in completing your degree on time.
All right, excellent. And then last up, Victor.
Good evening. I'm Victor Chen, or Yingjie Chen. I'm the associate professor in computer graphic technology. Here I teach information visualization in the 3rd year course and 4th year course called CGT 370 and 470. Also, I teach graduate level course, like say the 575 applications in visualization and 670 higher level course, application in visual analytics. Before joining Purdue, I worked in the industry, in the web development industry, and also computer-aided design for a long time. So this is my home. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Thank you all very much. So yeah, like I said, we'll hear from all our panelists as we go through some topics we prepared. So first up, I want to start with TR and the advising portion of what it would be like in this department. And just to kind of start off with the situation we're in now, obviously we're doing a lot of things remotely, and Purdue has made the decision to take our STAR, our summer transition advising and registration experience, to virtual STAR. So can you kind of give us a rundown of how that will look and what students can experience or expect to experience during that process?
Sure. So once students have accepted their admissions to Purdue, they will be loaded into a software system called Brightspace, which is our online educational system that Purdue uses. And you will begin the virtual STAR on as early as May 11th. And then you will complete that online class that will have university information on it, as well as Polytechnic information on that. Once you're completed with that online course, then a completion certificate will be notified to your academic advisors, and then your advisors will reach out to you to coordinate a date and time sometime after June 1st to meet in either a group setting or meet one-on-one to talk about your high school academics, your successes, any credits you have from dual credit to AP scores that might be of interest to you that we need to know about. And we will work with you on planning out your fall semester classes during that one-on-one appointment. Your courses will be put into the computer system, and then sometime in mid-July, a software system will be run from the registrar's office, and every new student to Purdue for the fall semester will get their schedules generated at the exact same time. And then on that date, you'll know exactly what classes you have Monday through Friday and what times they are from 7:30 to 5:30.
All right, very cool. Kind of going along those same lines, we have a few of our different majors and departments represented within this area. What are some of the shared coursework that you see within this area? Because I have a lot of ambassadors who do dual majors within this department. So kind of going along the same lines, minors, double majors, how easy is that to complete with those plans of study?
So probably start low level, and we'll talk about consistent classes that every student in every major in computer graphics completes. We do have 4 courses that every student takes in their freshman year that are computer graphics related, 2 in the fall and 2 in the spring semester. So that garners some consistency with our freshman population. You'll take a communication course and an English course as well. And then we have traditionally 2 semesters of math, a pre-calculus course and an applied calculus class. And the math is probably the variable that is different for a lot of students based upon AP scores or dual credits or how well you did in high school on your math. So that's kind of where you may start differently in a math course. So that's consistently for the freshman year. Students will take an introductory course, they'll take an imaging course, they will take a introductory web programming class, and they will take a design course of either through 3D modeling with animation, or they'll take a modeling class using a CAD software system. And then most students will take a C language class their sophomore year, and then everyone in their senior year will complete a year-long capstone sequence of classes.
Okay, cool. We'll come back to that capstone discussion a little bit later. I'm going to turn to Ray at this point. And how would you describe and how would you explain what the class makeup is, the course makeup is for some of the classes in the CGT department?
Course makeup of some of the classes in CGT, specifically my classes.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Well, a lot of it is hands-on. Now, things change a lot when it's delivered online, but there's still a lot of hands-on work. So the goal of my classes is to get students industry ready by the end of their 4 years. So it starts off with an intro class that introduces students to all of the different disciplines that are involved with 3D animation, both for movies and for games. Then it moves on to specialize in future classes on either say modeling or animating or for example, rigging or rendering. Then at the very end, it culminates in animation's own capstone, which is it's sort of a class where you work on group projects and individual projects to create what we call a demo reel, which is something that you would show to recruiters to get into this industry.
Okay, and what kind of software are utilized in this major specifically?
A good number of them, but mostly we're working in Autodesk Maya. We're also using the Adobe products, Photoshop, After Effects, Premiere. We're using ZBrush. We're using Houdini. We're using Unreal. So a good number of different softwares. That's kind of the tip of the iceberg right there.
That's quite a few, like you mentioned. And you mentioned in the beginning when you were talking to the remote learning, and obviously still trying to get that same experience. What does that look like right now for our students?
Right now, it looks like it's a lot of communication. It's mostly asynchronous, where they will send me a screenshot or they will send me a direct message saying, I'm having a problem with this. They'll share a file with me. I'll take a look at the file. I'll explain to them what's gone wrong with the file if something's wrong. Or I will do a draw over of their screenshot and show them where they should probably go with it. It's basically everything that we can do without actually getting into the same room.
All right, so I've assumed then in the in-person setting, those types of conversations will be happening in real time, obviously, the feedback right in there.
Right.
And then Rosemary, what kind of software and what kind of class makeup how would you describe your classes in the areas that you teach?
I get a good mix of students. I get a lot from engineering, but some from virtual, doing graphics work, some doing web design. And I actually like that because I always have a group project that I have my classes do. And so I like to mix those students together because they all bring a little bit something different to the table. I usually also have a mix of sophomores, juniors, but have had seniors and freshmen in the same class as well. And again, I like to cross mix those. They might meet someone new that they'll become long friends with. And again, they have different experiences. So I like to mix it that way. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. And then, you mentioned working in CAD and the software there. What kind of, focus is that kind of bringing to the table as well?
Yeah, so I'll echo sort of what Ray said, that we have a variety of tools, but really focusing on those that get used in industry. And so a lot of students coming in might be familiar with SolidWorks or Solid Edge. We do have SolidWorks, but we also use CATIA V5, which is one of the big players, one of the big three out in industry. Creo from PTC is the other one, and NX from Siemens is the fourth. And I actually teach two of those in one class. So you'll do one exercise in V5, and then you'll repeat the exercise in NX, which allows you to compare those two systems. And a colleague of mine actually, last couple of years now, we've brought a lot of industry tools in. So we're using it's called ARIS. It's a PDM, a product data management system that, again, is used in industry. Say when you design a part, you then release it for someone to review and either accept or pass, or say it needs to go through another round of design iterations. So you'd use that system to basically manage that whole process. Well, I have students submit their assignments through a system. It's it doesn't have all the complex setups that an industry setting would, but they submit to me. I can provide feedback in there. I can send it back to them if they want to make some improvements on that assignment. And then eventually I can set it to graded when it's done so that they can see and review their work. And also another package, it's a smaller company called Anarch, but they publish out 3D PDFs that you can look at this 3D design in a PDF and actually spin it around and see all the data. And so again, that's what companies are using to put out technical data packages with all the specifications needed to manufacture a part. So that's, I really like to bring that focus because I think it's really important for our students to have that experience because it does make them stand out from other students.
No, that's great. I think both you and Ray have talked about preparation for industry, and that's I think one of the hallmarks of the Polytechnic. And Victor, I want to turn to you now and kind of get your thoughts on what your preparation, what your experience is with students, and how they're prepped for their industry when they're done with their degree here.
Okay, so generally I teach the third year and fourth year courses in the database. So in the early years, we actually started with some tools, for example, Excel and Microsoft Excel and Tableau and the Power BI, those things. So let people familiar with the basic forms of data visualization. And in the third year, fourth year, we actually focus a lot more on the development, programming actually, design programming. In short, data visualization is generally a way to turn those boring abstract data, a lot of data, for example, into a beautiful graphics that people can understand and can make informed decision. So this requires the student to have both some kind of art and design sense, some series of human psychology, cognition, and then last one is programming. So it's a combination of all perspectives. A very interesting topic. But for the students in the third and fourth year, they will start learn a lot of programming and also as well as the design. So they generally speaking, they will find some data, real data set. For example, ask other professors, ask their school, and also from their work, they find some data and they play with the data, try to understand the data, and find out the need from their client, basically professor or their boss, right? Then they turn those make some design, sometimes using those basic forms, such like the pie chart or line graph. But often I would encourage them to create some creative, innovative visualization that could pop up the trends, the information behind the data. Then they turn those data into a working working program, so that they can show to their the user. And also the last big, a lot of times people need a portfolio to work. So really the last thing I told them, say, hey, this is a project, but this also be part of your portfolio. Make sure you polish it to the work so that you can probably show this to your future employer.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of a common theme so far is that preparation and that demonstration of the abilities and for that portfolio is great. And you mentioned programming. So what kind of programming do the students learn, and how would you compare that to what students might experience in a computer science related program?
Well, in us, which we do learn some computer science basics, but we also really focus on more about the design and programming together, as a combination. Let's say the database, the JavaScript, HTML, those are really our focus on my courses, 370 and 470. And also, this is a good part about the data visualization major is you can easily mix with the web major, so that could cause two majors in CGT. And also, we learn a lot of time based on the examples. If you Google, you can search a lot of beautiful visualization examples. From those, also they got some source code you can behind it. You can learn from it. So at the end, so really our target is you can independently design and develop a beautiful thing, meaningful one.
All right, very nice. Did have a question come out from the chat, kind of related to software. Ray, we'll turn back to you. Is there anything that students can do over the summer to kind of get themselves familiar with these different software before they get to campus?
Yeah, actually, most of the software that we use is free for students. So you can go to autodesk.com, you can set up a student account, and you can download the software to your home computer. Chances are it's not going to run as well on your home computer as it does on our lab machines, but but it will run, and you can get familiar with Maya. There are really only a small handful of them that don't offer student versions that are free. One example would be ZBrush, but the same company, Pixelogic, also puts out a software called Sculptris. That's Sculpt, like SCULPTRIS. And if you look that up, that one's free, and it works the same as ZBrush. It just can't be integrated with other software. So you can even get practice with that without actually even having the software. Yeah, most of what we teach can be downloaded for free as a student. So so any of the softwares that I've mentioned, if you know what direction that you're wanting to go, you could get into one of the 3D softwares. You could get into you can always get into, you know, working on game engines as well. There's a lot that you could do, and there are a lot of different resources online to learn the basics at the very least. One thing that, even if you didn't know what specific discipline you wanted to get into, just gaining a familiarity with Photoshop, for example, would be pretty huge, maybe even After Effects. So if I was unsure of what specific discipline I wanted to get into, those would be two things that I would jump into right away. On the programming side for animation, we do also do some programming. Learning, for example, Maya's embedded language is, believe it or not, relatively easy. Getting just a basic foundation in Python would be huge. And Python carries over to a lot of other software that we use on the entertainment graphics end of things. So so that would be, if I could get like maybe a tutorial in Python, something like that, that would be a pretty big bonus for my area.
Oh, that's great. And I think you mentioned the software is available on our machines here at the Polytechnic. And do students have the ability to remote access those currently or in the future as well?
Yes, that was set up within days of the quarantine being announced. So yeah.
And assuming going forward, probably accessible, even if students are back on, well, hopefully and currently planning to be back on campus for the fall, but expecting that same ability to be there as well.
Yeah, the online versions of our courses are only going to get better, and the transition this semester, at least from animation, has been pretty seamless. So we've been working on this for a long time, though, and a part of just hybridizing your courses, it just naturally fits to leading to an online version. It's been a bit of work. It's been an adjustment for sure, but we had a lot of what we did online ready long before this, years ago, actually.
All right, and then one last follow up to you, and then I'm going to turn to Rosemary for the same question.
All right.
I've got a question in our chat: Mac or PC recommendation?
PC.
All right, Rosemary.
Yeah, definitely PC. I'm actually in the process of getting a new laptop. Wish I could have a Mac, but the vendors that do CAD do not support Mac yet, so I'm stuck with a PC. But as far as some of the softwares that you could become acquainted with over the summer, the four that I mentioned, SolidWorks, which is Dassault Systems is the company. They do CATIA as well. PTC Creo and Siemens NX, and I believe due to the quarantine that we all have, they're all available free, for use free. Sometimes they have like a 30-day trial, but I think those have been extended given the circumstances. I'm trying to think. Yeah, and you may have, once you're a student, you can also get Office 365. So using some of those tools, maybe advanced Excel stuff, and in Victor's case, PowerPoint is always a tool that I like my students to be familiar with, and how to put together a good PowerPoint, not just putting stuff on slides, but not putting whole paragraphs and just reading them, but talking to the slides so that you have value being there as a presenter. And as far as the online learning piece, like Ray said, our department was really well set up for online learning. And actually, I don't live in Indiana anyway. Normally, I've been teaching from my home in Massachusetts for 6 years now. So like you said, we had a lot of the technology set up, and the students really like it because they watch lectures or, you know, learning about the topics through videos. They watch them when they want to watch them, not at 8 o'clock in the morning when maybe they don't want to be in a class. And then we come together usually once a week in a WebEx and discuss, you know, what did you find out? Do you have any questions? Can I show you anything? And sort of touch base to help them keep a schedule, because they're really, it's on them to do the work and keep up with the class. But obviously I want to help them as much as I can. But they really enjoy that format. And to the online point, we have a lab that's dedicated for their use during class time. I don't think anybody goes to the lab. They all like to be at home working on these remote machines that we have. And again, it's worked out to our advantage in the current situation. And we find ways to keep connected. We have a GroupMe chat that they can ask questions. Often the students help the other students. We get to know each other quite well. And again, during this time when we're all apart and it's been a little bit disruptive, we've had, you know, good lighthearted conversations too, trying to keep everybody's spirits up and sharing pictures of our pets and whatnot. So even though we're not together, I try to, you know, maintain that connection with the students.
That's great, and definitely important, obviously, for retention and making sure everybody's successful. Then kind of going back to the PC or Mac recommendation, I'm going to assume it's probably PC, but Victor, you want to share for your area if you have a recommendation as well?
Honestly, we don't really care data visualization because the tools like all have different versions on Mac and PC. And from the programming side, it doesn't really matter at all. It really is about your personal choice. So, but yeah, from this perspective, we have no preference. Really, you know what? But when we really do the programming side, really, we wish you can do a lot of design first instead of you just being a labor of coding labor, but rather you have to define yourself as a designer first, right? You have to understand the user and also understand the data really for the user. So from that perspective, it's really a nice if you can learn other design tools. This is Photoshop and Illustrator, those design tools have some good sketch ability using its own paper. In terms of, yeah. So from this perspective, honestly, I feel that the Macintosh did a better job than PC. Generally speaking, make the laptop a little bit more, at least good looking. Better looking.
All right, well, good to know. We do have a question in the chat, and we kind of touched on this earlier. I'm going to bring it back to TR. Question from the chat is it doable or is it possible to minor in something outside of the Polytechnic? And then kind of going back to just how would that work for double majors or minors within the Polytechnic? How does that work in terms of the advising perspective and how you help our students do that?
So currently we have some majors within computer graphics that are very friendly with each other. So students who are interested in the games area could easily double major in animation if they wanted to. Data visualization students and web students are compatible. Virtual product integration and web are compatible. So there are opportunities where you can get two majors within your computer graphics degree. Not required, but some students have enough flexibility in their schedule that they can do that. Picking up a minor, if there's a minor at Purdue that you're interested in taking and you meet the qualifications to start that minor, you are certainly welcome to add that. Again, not required for graduates to have a minor when they graduate from Purdue, but if you wanted to pick one up, you could. And they're all over the board. So sometimes students will pick up a minor that's relatively compatible with their major, and some students will just pick up a class or a minor because I liked history in high school, so I want to take the history minor here at Purdue. So it's really sort of off the wall. I think one of the benefits and the pluses about the Polytechnic in whole, no matter what your major is across the college, is that we do not require foreign language to be taken while you are at Purdue. So foreign language is not a requirement. So your high school days of Spanish, French, and German are over if you so choose to not take a foreign language again. But with some of our students in unique majors like animation and games, they're like, you know what? I want to try Chinese and I want to do Japanese because I may be going to Korea to do my job. So I want to learn Korean. So there's those opportunities to expand your horizons as well.
All right, very cool. And then you mentioned it earlier, and I think Ray did as well. But TR, I want to keep with you the senior capstone project. And is that a requirement, and how does that come into play with the plan of study for students in CGT?
So each of the major areas might have a course that they're required to take that might have a sort of a semester-long capstone experience that's required for that major. But for all of our majors in computer graphics, we bring all the majors back together in the senior year. And starting in August, that cohort of students will meet together as a group. Teams will be formed, projects are chosen, faculty advisors are created, sponsors for the project are sought after, and then the students will do research and get a better understanding of what that project is going to be like in the fall semester. And then currently in the spring semester, the students are building, designing, and implementing that capstone project. And then under a normal situation, there would be a couple of days set aside where students will spend 30 to 40 minutes presenting that solution or idea that they have for that capstone project to a public format. And that is their final grade. This year, the students are remotely working together to create YouTube videos, and then those will be posted on the class site, and then they will be reviewed and critiqued by faculty and students before the end of the semester.
And so you mentioned sponsors, and could you give us a few examples of who sponsors and what the projects might look like, or what examples from the past as well?
Certainly. So the great thing about our capstones is that it's not all animation students working on one project. It's not all virtual product students working on another project. We tend to integrate our students together from across disciplines because in industry, that's kind of how you're working with different people. One great example I have is that I never in my wildest dreams would have thought nursing students and video games had anything in common, but somehow our students made it happen. And so our nursing department here on campus had an idea, and so they became the sponsor for this project. And they have a classroom lab in their facility that simulates a hospital room, and that hospital room can run anywhere from $250,000 to $500,000 of equipment and products. And students have to schedule time in that one room, and there's not a lot of space and a lot of money to do multiple tests at the same time. So it's very time consuming and very expensive. And so the nursing school was a sponsor for a project where they worked with game students, they worked with building information modeling students, they worked with animation students, and they created a virtual hospital room with the same equipment that was in the physical space and just made it into a lab. And then nursing students tested that product with VR goggles, and they were able to go in and find all the problems and the errors that were laid out in that classroom. And so multiple students can take this test at the same time. And surprisingly now, if this software was in place, which is not yet, but if it were, all these students could be doing their quizzes and tests in that room online because they don't physically have to be here on campus to do it. The nursing school is eventually trying to do a worldwide program where they could teach people in Africa how to do proper nursing experiences without actually being in a hospital room. That's just one example that I can come up with.
Well, that's a pretty amazing example to be able to do that worldwide. That's awesome. And Ray, I'm going to turn back to you. And you mentioned that you kind of oversee some of the senior capstones. Is that correct?
So I oversee the animation capstone, which is the single semester experience. The overall CGT capstone that all of the students take, I've been involved with it. I've sponsored as a faculty sponsor. I've sponsored many capstone groups through that experience, primarily more animation related capstone groups, but that's one of the few courses I haven't taught.
All right, fair enough. So one thing that we have in the Polytechnic is a very big focus, and you've all touched on it already, is in industry preparation, industry experience, and the software that's utilized out there. What kind of internships or professional work experience do you see students in CGT go into before they graduate? And Rosemary, we'll start with you.
Yeah, there's a whole lot in the immediate area, right? There's Rolls-Royce, Caterpillar, John Deere's not too far away. Actually, Saab is just starting up a big facility just outside of campus, I think in partnership with the university, so they'll probably have some opportunities, but that doesn't say they all have to be close by. And very often we get people that we know in industry, people that I met when I was out in industry, that will email us and say, we're looking for someone to do, this position, and we'll put it out to our students. So we get a lot of opportunities that way. Again, maybe not always local, but there's always a variety of different options for them to choose from.
All right, that's good to hear. And then Victor, for your data viz area, what kind of internships experiences do you see for students?
Well, generally speaking, the database is kind of relatively young, but has been, the whole thing has been around for a long history, but the industry is kind of young. So the job has been around just especially for the current data science. It's a big data era, right? The data science. So you can see a lot of opportunities from varieties of companies. They ask for some data scientists, some data visualization developer, and they ask a skill set that basically nobody really can teach at this traditional curriculum. So that's what we are focusing on. When you really go there, any of the, I say Indeed.com, when you search for some internship about the data visualization or data scientist, you can find tons of those positions there.
Good to know our students can get connected to that big data science related area. And then Ray, same question for you in animation.
Sorry, repeat the question. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. Just internship or opportunities that students can get out into different industries that are related to animation for us.
Okay. Well, animation internships, like specifically in like the big studios, the big game studios, the big movie studios, they're relatively few and far between. I think some of the larger studios offer upwards of like maybe 8 to 10 internships per year for the summer. But our students do actually get them. One of our students this summer, if the quarantine doesn't prevent it, has already been accepted into the Pixar internship. Our students tend to get more of those than some other schools. But there are all kinds of internships that even my students are perfectly qualified for. Anything related to graphics, anything related to 3D rendering, video editing. There's a wide variety of internships out there in advertising, in medical visualization. And our students they do tend to get internships. It's, you know, but it's really a wide variety of different places where they would go.
No, that's definitely good to hear. And TR, since you work with all of our students in this department, what kind of feedback and what kind of experiences have you heard about for internships for our students?
I probably would echo the comments that I've heard before, and we have a company locally in Lafayette that is called SDI Innovations, and they work with planners for elementary, high school, and colleges, and they're big on hiring our students for summer internships. So you could stay in the Lafayette, West Lafayette area, work for them, take 1 or 2 summer classes if you wanted to. Students will then sometimes go home and they'll find something locally so they can work from home, live at home, and be a little more cost effective. And then we have some opportunities within, not a lot, but we have some opportunities for our GAIN students within our department where they could pick up some internship experience by doing work as a Purdue student for a course credit, and then it's also doing work for a company.
And now is a professional work experience internship, is that a part of a requirement for this department as well?
Yes, we don't call it an internship. We don't call it a co-op. We call it professional experience because there are some areas of our academics that it's challenging to get a one-to-one relationship with maybe the field that you're studying. So we try to keep it broader so that the students know that they can still do some work experience that's related to computer graphics and still meet that requirement.
In some or another department, construction management typically I think is 800 hours in their construction field. What is that? Is there some certain number of hours you have to meet, or what does that look like?
No, it's not. Because every project's different. Like Rosemary was saying, that we have some departments on campus that will say, you know, we need to upgrade our departmental logo, so we need a student to work on our graphics area. And so students can pick that work up. It may take them, you know, 40, 50 hours to do some graphic work, and they're done. Whereas a student who may be in virtual product integration is going to go work for Boeing for the summer, and they're going to make you know, 320 hours maybe for the summertime. So it's a wide range of hours. So we don't quantify the hours. We look at the quality of work.
Okay, great to hear. And I'm going to just pose this question to everybody. So raise your hand so I can just call on you when I ask it. Are you involved in any sort of research opportunities for students as an undergraduate? And Victor, I think I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, actually, I have dealt with a lot of undergraduate student research. And currently, there are 2 students working with me. In the past, really, what we try to is align those students with PhD students, and so that they can learn about how senior students work, and also from me directly, the mentor is about how the researchers conduct research in the right methodology, to find out the correct research questions, and then how to conduct the research really in a more rigorous way. And also a lot of times, you know, the students can participate in those research as either you can earn credit. Also, often you can get paid. For example, we start with $10 per hour to $15 per hour, depending on the utility. And you can work, generally speaking, 10 to 20 hours per week. That could be a very nice add-on.
All right, good. I'm glad there's some opportunity. Anybody else before I move on? No? Okay. And then I guess just one more question related to kind of once the students are done with their degree, what kind of positions, if you kind of just share like career titles, companies, and I know Rosemary, you already mentioned a few internship career companies that students have gone into, and we'll start with you, Rosemary. What kind of titles would you say are students or career pathways that students are going into?
Funny, I just had a student ask me this the other day, you know, what kind of jobs can I start looking for? And it's quite a big list, you know, anything around manufacturing essentially. So it could be a product manager, someone helping with the whole process, could be a designer. It could be, again, manufacturing if you're interested in that side of it. It could even be programming the manufacturing machines that do the work. Inspections, the other part, and anything around managing the data, right? Again, there's hundreds of files that go through, at least dozens of revisions throughout the product's life. So it could be working on, a database type of a position as well. So there's quite a broad range at least for VPI.
All right, good to hear. And then Ray, same question for you.
So I did mention this previously. There are a lot of different disciplines that my students will get into. For example, animating, which is like making things move, right? Rigging, which is building an infrastructure inside of a 3D model to make it move. There's modeling, there's texturing, rendering. A lot of our students end up with some sort of technical director type of position where they have very sound technical skills as far as programming, and they also have a very firm knowledge of the 3D pipeline, and they're able to build and or modify tools that can directly help artists create their art. So yeah, there are a lot of different job titles that our students get into, and the jobs range from anywhere from like the massive 3D movie producing studios to video game studios, small advertising studios, big advertising studios, medical visualization, even architectural visualization, because the rendering engines that we get used to in 3D animation are basically a step up from your average CAD rendering software. So our students might get into a company like a company that does architectural pre-visualization. Our students might get into just there's a great variety of different areas that they can get into.
All right, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. And then TR, we did have a question come in from the chat. Right now, none of our panelists are part of our UX design program. Just kind of get a little bit of an insight from you, if you could, just kind of how that program is designed. Not to, no pun intended. Just kind of give us a little insight on that one for us.
User experience is a very unique program. They don't have a specific computer software program that they use. This is sort of the psychology behind computers, is how I would define it. A lot of their projects that the students work on in class are sort of creativity. They're designing, building, structuring, testing, getting feedback. It's a lot of whiteboard and Post-it notes that go on in class is how I kind of describe how UX operates. They do end up with a final product, and any programming that they use, they're probably going to be on the surface, not so much in depth like a computer science person would or a web development person would. So they're going to learn basics of maybe Python or CAD, or they might learn basics of in the Adobe suites, or they might learn some C language, but they're not going to go into a lot of depth in that. But it's a very up and coming career field, and I think it's in very high demand. That program is in very high demand as well, so space is limited. So if you were admitted to the UX program, that's a very commendable opportunity for you.
All right, thank you for that, TR. And just as a heads up for any of our viewers, or if you're watching this again later on, our UX faculty did a broadcast last year actually about that program. It's an hour long, and you can find that at polytechnic.purdue.edu/live. So you can take a look at that and hear what they had to say during that broadcast last year. So then last question I want to pose to you, and TR, we'll stick with you just to kind of wrap up. What is one piece of advice that you'd want to give to our incoming students that you'd want them to have to be successful in the CGT department?
Come with an open mind. I think that students come in with blinders on, and they think they want to do a certain thing, and that's the only thing that they want to do, and so they don't want to explore other opportunities within the career field. Most of our majors within computer graphics have CGT selectives that they branch out away from their major and take alternate courses. And so I always challenge students to take something that they may not have thought about enrolling in, just so that they could expand their horizons. Ray mentioned that some of the animation kids are working in the architecture field. So why not take a building information modeling class to sort of complement that artwork and that two-dimensional, three-dimensional modeling that goes into construction? So come with an open mind and be prepared to challenge yourself. That's how I would look at it.
All right, awesome. Thank you. And Victor, what would you say to our incoming students?
Actually, I will echo what TR said. I have an open mind. You know, there's tons of opportunity within CGT, and this is really a unique position that mixes with design, technology, programming, science all together. So there's a lot of choice you can do here, and the future is pretty wide.
All right, excellent. And Rosemary, your piece of advice?
I would agree what the others have said, but I think something else I was a little bit afraid of. I went to a university with 20,000 students, right? Purdue is twice that size, and it might seem a little bit overwhelming, but don't let that scare you off. The sense of community at Purdue is just awesome, and no matter where you go in the country, if someone sees you with a Purdue shirt or hat on, they'll flag you down. Hey, I went to Purdue too. So I think that's really awesome, and you'll find your own little group, you know, within this big university. So you have all the opportunities of a big university, but you will find your small group so that you can have that more personal piece of it as well. And I think especially within our department, you know, everyone is very willing and they're there to help the students. That's why we're there. We want to help you guys, you know, get a good job when you leave. We want to give you valuable experience. So don't be afraid by the size. That just means there's more fun things to do on campus.
Yes, indeed. And then Ray, your piece of advice?
Like the open mind comment. That's great. Something I'd add to that is come ready to work. Our department is known for its rigor. It's known for its technical expertise, and it's known for our connection to industry. And being, especially in animation, being this far away from LA, which is, you know, where a lot of the industry is, and being as well known as we are, we're right now in for 2020, we were just rated on Animation Career Review, number 4 public school for animation in America. So be ready. There's a difference coming here, and come with that mindset to work hard and to succeed, and know that when you come here, you've got a massive network of others who've come here before you, who you are actually going to get to meet, probably on a call just like this, with a classroom full of other students, and network with, and their avenues for success. So that's basically what I want to say.
Right, be ready to work. I like it. So I just want to give a couple of resources that are out there for everybody at home viewing. Actually, Rosemary was on a Techies Today podcast talking about remote teaching and learning. So if you haven't followed our Techies Today podcast, please go wherever you find your podcasts and search for that, and you can listen to our podcasts. So you can also hear about what Rosemary had to share there. And then through our admitted students resource page, it's polytechnic.purdue.edu purdue.edu/admitted-student-information. You can find another video with me talking about admitted student resources and what's the next steps for you, as well as a video featuring TR Oneal talking about the CGT department a little more in depth there, and then how he mentioned that we see the CGT department as a small school within this large university. So definitely check out that link and download some resources that are out there as well, things you would have received if you're able to come visit with us. Speaking of that, we actually just received a message earlier today from Purdue President Mitch Daniels talking about the fall semester. And as of right now, everything is planning to be like normal in terms of being on campus. There may be some shifts in how we manage classroom spaces and housing, things along those lines to make sure everybody's safe and healthy, but we are planning for the fall to be on campus. So just to kind of hopefully put your minds at ease about that. Otherwise, I just want to thank you all very much at home for watching, and thank our panelists for joining us and sharing their insights about the CGT department here in the Polytechnic. Like I mentioned before, you can watch this again through our polytechnic.purdue.edu/live page. You can also send us an email at techrecruit@purdue.edu. If you have anything that you're wondering about or want us to respond to, please send us emails, request a call through our admitted student page, and you'll get a call from one of our staff members as well. We want to make sure we're connecting with you and giving you all the resources you need. So please reach out to us and let us know. So once again, I want to thank you all very much for joining us, and have a great night, and boiler up.